Have you ever said something like, I just told you to grab your bag and put your shoes away? What happened? Or maybe you've watched a student start an assignment and then quickly abandon it and forget what's going on. Or maybe they sat down to take notes and somehow, after the teachers finished talking, there's nothing written down. And it looks like they're not listening, like they're not paying attention, like they just don't care. But what if I told you it's not motivation, it's not laziness, and it's not even behavior? It's working memory. And I'll be honest, this is something I used to completely disregard. I never even considered it a possibility. It wasn't until I took the Connected Pathways Executive Functioning Masterclass with Krista Hopp that I realized just how important working memory really is for students. Working memory isn't just a skill, it's often the skill that is underneath all the other executive functioning skill areas. And once I started seeing it, I couldn't unsee it with my students. So if you're a parent, a teacher, or a coach, stick through this video with me because learning more about working memory might just be the fix that you need to understand your students better. If working memory is the primary challenge, I need you to know that we can't look at any other skill area until this one is addressed. So, what actually is working memory? Working memory is your brain's ability to take in information, hold on to it, and then do something with it. That last part is key because it's not just holding on to information for the short term, like the numbers 4, 5, and 8. It's then manipulating that information, like asking you to multiply 45 times 8. That process of manipulating the information, that's working memory. And we use working memory all day long when we are following directions, taking notes, solving math problems, remembering what we walked into the room for, even holding on to a piece of information while talking to someone else. When trying to explain working memory to parents and students, I like to use different kinds of metaphors to help let the information really stick in our brains. And honestly, some of these metaphors were reinforced by Connected Pathways Masterclass in Executive Functioning. They're just so helpful for making sense of this particular skill that impacts us so much. So, number one is the parking lot. Your brain is a parking lot with limited spaces. Each thought is a car that comes in and it's looking for a spot to sit. Once this parking lot is full, no more cars can come in. They have to circle around until a spot opens up, or they have to just go away completely and find a new parking lot. So, what happens is the thought either gets lost or it's pushing something else out. Number two is the sticky notes. Working memory is like a sticky note in your brain. But if you cram too much onto that small sticky note, things will spill over, they will smudge, they'll disappear, or maybe the wind just comes and takes them away completely. Number three are browser tabs. You can have a few tabs open and things are working pretty efficiently, but when you have too many tabs open in your brain, our computer is going to slow down, maybe even crash completely. And that's exactly what happens with our students. Which leaves us to another concept called cognitive overload. This is when students have too many demands for their mental bandwidth. And this is the moment where adults often misunderstand what's going on. Because cognitive overload is often going to look like distractibility, rushing, shutdown or freeze, task abandonment. But what's actually happening is that their brain is overloaded. Their working memory is full, and their brain literally cannot hold anything else. So when a student shuts down, it's not defiance, it's overload. And I think a lot of adults underestimate just how big a role emotions can play in our working memory. Because if we are emotionally dysregulated, that's taking up an entire parking spot, or maybe all of the parking spots. Because working memory is deeply connected to emotion and anxiety. When a student becomes anxious, their amygdala flips off. Once your amygdala flips off, your prefrontal cortex slows down. And suddenly, working memory decreases even more. And so, what are we left with? A student who is already overwhelmed, and they now have even less capacity to function. This is why things like timed math tests and high pressure environments can really take a toll on students with ADHD or other executive dysfunction. These environments can actually make performance worse. So here's a real life example. I worked with a student who would start all of their assignments, but they could never seem to finish them. And teachers thought the student didn't care, that they lacked effort, that they had poor motivation. And I even had conversations with the parents where they would say things like, if he could just sit down for 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon, he could catch up on all of these assignments. But when we broke it down, here's what we actually saw. The student was experiencing so much cognitive overload that he could only hold on to 2, maybe 3 steps at a time. But the assignments required 5, 6, 7 steps to even get started. So these steps were things like read directions, find materials, answer questions, check work, and submit. So those steps might feel really small, but for somebody who is overwhelmed and anxious and has a lot of assignments to make up, this is a lot of cognitive overload. And that's way beyond their working memory capacity. So they'd start and then they'd hit a wall. And much of my work involves finding that wall and then supporting the student in getting over it, or under it, or around it, or however they need to move past this wall. That's what we work on. How can we move past it? And here's the part that's really important for you to understand. You cannot expand your working memory. So I'm going to repeat it for the people in the back. You cannot expand your working memory. That's something that I really had to let sink in when I was learning in this course about working memory. Because I think a lot of us just want that one game to really be effective, or this pill to wipe away all of my struggles, or anything that could just give us a quick solution to the problem. But as we're all probably too familiar with, there's no such thing as a quick fix. Life isn't that simple. So what we can do is support it, offload it, and design systems around it. So here are some of the most effective ways to accommodate working memory. 1, get it out of the brain. Working memory isn't for long-term storage. So write it down, type it up, send a note to a friend, whatever you got to do, get it out of the brain. Checklists, written directions, visual reminders, all of these things are useful. 2, chunk everything. Break tasks into the smallest possible steps. Instead of do your homework, try open up your backpack, take out your planner, choose one assignment. 3, dual encoding. Use both visual and verbal cues. Think doodle notes, diagrams, color coding. Dual encoding is really going to help your brain out. 4, external support. This might be a recording, might be your teacher's notes, could be a graphic organizer. Note taking in and of itself is a very big demand on your working memory. So if any external supports there are, the better. And 5, build routines. Now, routines are difficult for folks with ADHD to even establish, but creating a routine and going through it more and more and more will eventually create more automatic systems. Of course, a routine can be interrupted by things like a vacation or a new schedule, but having those base routines can really be supportive because the more automatic a task, the less working memory that's needed. So, if you're working with a student who struggles with working memory, meaning that they forget deadlines, they might struggle with multi step tasks, or they might shut down easily, I want you to shift one thing. Stop asking, why aren't they trying? And start asking, what might their brain be holding right now? Because when we understand working memory, we can better support our students. We can stop blaming students and start understanding how their brains work. Comment below what strategy you're going to try for yourself or a student you're working with.